Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the ANZCAR Cup, round number 19 here at Pocono Raceway in Pennsylvania. A very different oval track. JP, I'm sure you're going to find this one confusing. It's an oval that's not an oval.
Carl, look, I'm confused every time we come to one of these ovals. Not so much because it's an oval, because I'm learning something new and it's so different to circuit racing.
Well, Pocono is one of those tracks that is very different. It is a triangle. It's not an oval, it's a triangle, just to make things a little more difficult. We're out here with qualifying at the moment. Quite a few cars out on track at the moment, saying good times. Jason Hartigan just jumping to the top, beating out his teammate Edward Foster there for the front row. Neil Pearson and looking like he's jumping up there as well. So some quick times coming out there. The second run's probably going to be the quickest time here tonight. But yeah, a very different track, a little bit like Indianapolis, where it's more of a square rectangle than an oval. It's a bit different here tonight, and Pocono can be a tricky track sometimes. Those corners are a little bit sharper than you expect, and they can catch you out quite easily. So before we jump in, as we watch qualifying happening, we're just going to quickly run through the top 10 of the championship as we stand from last week's race. So up in front, in the lead of the championship, it was Danny G still, who we have on screen at the moment, I believe, with Michael Skurlock in second, Edward Foster third, Josh Mickelmore fourth, fifth is Jason Martin. The Mitch Motorsport boys climbing up in that top five very well now. Hamish Gallagher in sixth place with Norman Clark in seventh for JP Simshed. JP Simshed having a few cars in the top 10 now. James Roby in eighth with another JP Simshed boy of Jason Hartigan in ninth, and then Matthew Bullitt in 10th place, just squeezing out Matt Hunter in 11th now. So quite a few cars up there, quite a few teams mixing it up there. But Danny G is still holding that lead and doing a fantastic job of keeping himself up there. But Skurlock is very much on the hunt at the moment.
Yeah, Danny's done a great job, been really consistent the last few rounds, and it's paid off for him and giving him that Swagger Championship points, as we see Josh Mickelmore just going to the top of the table here.
Yeah, Mickelmore, one of those drivers you've always got to watch. Very, very fast, very, very quick on these ovals. And especially in these cars, he's got a lot of experience. And that Mitch Motorsport team does have a lot of experience in it for oval racing. Jason Martin on a bit of a flyer now as well. He's going to want to try and get up there with his teammate as he comes down the back stretch. Coming into that quite tight corner as we go into the second triangle section. There's a few straights here, but you're coming into the last corner now. As you can see, the pit lane just on the inside there. Martin going through there, back end, just wanting to step out a little bit. This is the corner that catches most people out because it's a very tight exit here. And across the line he comes. How was that lap? Got him into second place.
That's got to be putting the Mitch Motorsport guys in the box seat here.
They are looking very good at the moment. Danny G down in 7th at the moment. A little bit further down than normal, but the two cars up front there is going to help them a lot. Of course, drafting is useful here as well because it is a very fast track here at Pocono. As we say, you do have to lift off a little bit as you go into those corners, but it's a frightfully difficult track to drive. A lot of drivers do love it, but a couple of them, myself included, hate Pocono. Just from the last corner, really. But we're going to be jumping straight into the race tonight. We won't have the usual pre-race jumping between sessions because we've finally looks like we've got our tyre system working properly, which will allow us 4 tyres for the race. So that's going to make things a little bit different for tonight.
Certainly going to make things very interesting for the race.
It's going to cut off a few options for strategies, of course, because people won't be able to come in every single time there's a caution flag out.
Yeah, brilliant. That's going to bring some strategy into play. Maybe get some people towards the front of the grid that may not be there usually.
Yes, and it's going to be a thing of a bit of tyre saving in here as well, because you're not going to be able to stop every caution. You're going to have that moment of having to save tyres a little bit through the race. Obviously, if it was a green race, the most you'd probably have would be 2 stops anyway, so they can absolutely do it. but it does cut that option of coming into the pits every time there's a caution out if you've got tyre wear problems. So it really does make a bit of a difference, and really does throw a spanner in the works of some people's strategy.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to see. Did you want to run through the order for tonight, Carl?
Absolutely. So on row number 1, we have a Mitch Motorsport lockout with Josh Micklemore on pole and Jason Martin second. Second row of the grid, Neil Pearson with Hamish Gallagher. Third row is Michael Skurlock with Jason Hartigan. Fourth row, Danny G with Norman Clark. Fifth row is Matthew Cluett with Shay Thompson. Sixth row is Lachlan with Danny Alban. Seventh row is Ed Foster with Joshua Carroll-Walden. Eighth row, Bradley Allison with Hammy Stein. Ninth row, we have Devon Stove with Rob Fletcher. 10th row is Phil Otto with Perry Anastakakis. I will try and pronounce that properly. I'm going to fail and everyone will make fun of it. On the 13th row of the grid, we have Tristan Koch with Nathan Clive. 14th is Peter Clark and Mark Johansson. 15th is Jake Maloney with Stephen Williams. 16th is Jackson Callow with Raymond Yeager. 17th is Matt Hunter with James Roby. And on the final row of the grid, from 30th and 32nd place, is Gareth Anderson and Adam Button. So a couple of new faces out there tonight as well, and a bumper field tonight of 32 cars.
Yeah, should make for some real exciting racing tonight as they're out and lining up behind the pace car, getting ready to start this race.
Getting ready for that green flag to drop, which it will do very shortly as they come out for that one pace lap. Obviously, Mitch Motorsport looking strong up there, but there are a few drivers you can never discount on these tracks. Norman Clark's had a very good run at the moment, and he's quite high up as well. Jason Hartigan, he had a very strong race last night in the Nationwide Series, getting a second place. Edward Foster actually winning that race. So coming off some strong finishes there, they're going to want to try and keep things going. But the pace car's coming around the final turn now, I think, so we should be coming into pit lane and getting ready to go green very shortly.
It should be pretty exciting. I think Josh is he's going to take control of the field. Let's see what he does, whether he gets on it as soon as the pace car comes in. Green lights, and we are racing.
And a bit of a slow start there for Micklemore. Jason Martin getting a much better run and getting a bit of a push from that outside line. Hamish Gallagher helping him along with Jason Hartigan out there as well. As we come into the first corner for the first time tonight, can be very difficult out there. Shay Thompson is blinking a little bit midfield, so that could cause a little bit of trouble out there. We see some contact in the background, but everybody's made it through cleanly so far. Cars all over the track at the moment, though, trying to find their position, trying to find their line.
Jason's dropped down a few spots. He's gotten in right behind Ed, and now they're sort of tightening up the bunch here and seeing if they can start to work their way forward.
Yeah, look, the JP Simshed group forming now, and Danny G's actually managed to get a relatively good start as well, and working his way up the field. He's going to want to try and get up there, as we see Josh Micklemore coming down the inside of Martin, trying to get in front of him now. We can see Foster bringing that pack along, trying to get outside of a few cars, trying to push his way forwards with that draft, and getting a little bit of a bump from behind to help along there, catching up to Danny G and Matthew Cluett as well.
Yeah, it looks like Josh has got that move done, and Jason just slots in behind him with Hamish Gallagher in third place. What are your thoughts here, Carl? This is an 80-lap race, just shy of 200 miles. Is this go all out to start off with, or try to pace yourself and get as much life as you can out of those tyres?
Generally, people will go pretty much all out at the start for this one. They're going to want to try and go as hard as possible just to get a little bit of a gap and get ahead of the pack, mainly because that's where we sometimes see incidents. So trying to get away from a lot of cars is everybody's main game. You might see people just starting to ease off a little bit through the midsection of this race, trying to get a little bit more life in the tyres. You do get a little bit of drop off at Pocono, especially as I say through that treacherous turn 3, which is a very tight corner. It's very deceptive. You think you've got a lot more room than you normally have, and that's usually where you get problems. Obviously with the tyre limit tonight, it does breed into the fact of having to save tyres a little bit, so expect people to push a little bit hard for the first 10 or so laps and then just start easing off a little bit from there, not pushing too hard. Usually we'll see the mid-pack sort of dropping a little bit from that, but just not going too hard, trying to save a little bit of time for the remainder of the race.
And this track's a little bit more unusual than what I'm used to seeing. There doesn't seem to be too much of an embankment on the corners there. It doesn't seem that high. Lots of room though on this track, so we can expect to see, I guess, 3 wide in some places.
Yes, it has got a very low banking section to it, which is one of those things that is deceptive here at Pocono, and is one of those things that can cause damage to tyres, because of course the flatter the racetrack, the less push you're getting from the sort of side of the racetrack when you've got a nice cambered corner. So that can cause a little bit more damage to tyres. You can get a little bit more push and things like that through there, and just scrub them a little bit. It's mainly through that last corner you get a very flat corner through there. But all of them are relatively low embanked corners. And that can cause trouble here. Usually you'll see people running a single lane. It's not too easy to go too wide through the corners here, but it's not impossible. It's not hard to go through wide, but again, you have to be very careful, especially through a couple of the corners.
Yeah, and
As we do see a couple going 3 wide into turn 1 right now with Shea Thompson, Norman Clark and Hammy Stein. Brave move there. A couple of cars out of position, but they've all made it work.
Yeah, and we're watching Ed Foster at the moment. He's made up 6 places, and he's slowly getting onto the back of Danny G here. I think I was talking to him earlier on today, and he seems to have a strategy sorted for this race, so it'd be interesting to see if that all plays out for him.
It's one of his favoured tracks for sure. He does like this track quite a lot for some reason. It's the opposite to Sonoma for him. But it is one of those tracks that it suits him quite well. He tends to run very well on short tracks, and we've got a bit of an incident at the back. Looks like a couple of cars getting involved in that. Looks like Joshua Carroll Walden got a little bit loose there. We're just trying to have a little bit look back, and Shea Thompson's gone into the back of him. And then there's been a couple of cars just out of position. Luckily we've remained green, but a few cars getting very close to a big accident there.
Yeah, this track kind of looks like if it catches you unawares, there are going to be some big consequences here.
It is a very fast track. We're reaching speeds of 280 up to 290 at some cases if you get a good tow. Kilometers per hour on the straight sections of these tracks, and obviously your reaction speed can be very fast, but at those speeds it can be very difficult, as we see Hamish Gallagher now trying to get to the lead. He's got past Jason Martin. Now he's fighting with Josh Micklemore as Jason Martin is busy trying to get that second place back.
Yeah, and it seems that Josh is wise to Hamish's game and keeping him behind him at the moment, but Hamish has really been coming along in the last few races. He looked really promising earlier on, and I think the promises have been delivering.
Absolutely, a driver that's been developing all season long, and we've seen this from Hamish Gallagher last season as well. Towards the tail end, he got stronger and stronger, getting those positions up, getting better qualifying sessions, and really building himself as a driver to watch. We've seen it this year as well with his tyre management skills. Hamish Gallagher can be one to pull a cat out of the bag if he needs to. And it's good to see those drivers coming up the field. Another driver that's been doing well this season as well is Neil Pearson, who's been doing extremely well. Danny Albon as well in his first season on the ovals too. Just talking about Danny Albon, behind him is a fast-charging Jake Maloney, who is absolutely flying through the field at the moment, made up 15 positions so far this race.
Last lap for Jake was a 55.3, so he's certainly got the measure on the guys behind him. He's catching up with the guys in front of him. He won't take him long to catch up to Danny Albon, I don't think. He might have his work cut out for him from here on in, though.
Yeah, there is quite a big gap forming from Albon to Hartigan and then to Foster up ahead from him. You can see that the front has actually split now, and Foster is making a move on Danny G as we speak. trying to get down the inside as we go down the start-finish straight, but doesn't get it happening this time round. He's going to have to sit behind Danny G for another bit of this lap and try and get past in another section. But we've got there Jason Hartigan as well, another star that's been rising at this season in oval racing. Obviously, he's more experienced on the road tracks than the ovals, but he's been doing very well out here. He's closing in on these two as they battle. And it's going to help them just get a little bit closer if they can actually start working together, because at the moment there is a bit of a gap between themselves and the front pack, which is Josh Micklemore, Hamish Gallagher, Jason Martin, Michael Scarlock and Neil Pearson. They've managed to break a little bit of a gap now.
Yeah, it's great to see Jason sort of starting to shine. He's won a round in the Abruzzi Cup in the Cup Series. And he's just been getting better and better as the weeks go on.
Absolutely, and it's always nice to see some new faces come over, especially people coming from road racing doing well, as Jason Martin goes down the inside of Hamish Gallagher now. Gallagher trying to hold that outside line, but the car getting a little bit wobbly out there. He manages to hold on well, but has lost a little bit of speed, giving Michael Skurlock a little bit of a chance to gain on him now. And he's managed to drop in. And back behind Jason Martin.
While all that was happening, Ed Foster made that move on Danny G. A little bit of a worry though, where I think we may have given Jason the commentator's curse because he kissed the wall on the last turn there. So I don't know if that's going to affect him at all. No,
and speaking of commentator's curse, Neil Pearson as well had a very scary moment there going through turn number 2, I think it was. Very, very close to losing the car there. The tail end stepped out and he managed to catch the car before it slid round. So very good save for him. So a couple of the drivers we're talking about, obviously getting the commentator's curse, which is always the problem you have to deal with. As Michael Skurlock now goes down and looks to try to get down the inside of Gallagher. Jason Martin goes wide here. We're going to get 3 wide, possibly down the straight. Gallagher manages to pull himself back up in front of Martin, which has given Martin a little bit of draft, got him away from Skurlock. They've had to go back into line formation.
Yeah, this is getting really interesting. We're seeing races within races already. Any words of wisdom as to what tyre life might be like on this track, Carl? What sort of laps they can expect to get out of their tyres?
From memory, I'm going to have to go from memory here, so I'm going to be absolutely wrong, no doubt. We'll be looking at around about 35 laps on the tyres. That's what we were looking at around last year, if I remember correctly, which is probably wrong, but it's going off my memory, that's what I recall. But it is one of those tracks where your tyres do start to drop off, so if we get a caution come out, expect to see these drivers coming into the pits wanting to get those fresh tyres, but of course now having that limit, they're going to have to start thinking about what's best for them in that respect, of course. Being quite a long race still to go, we're only on lap 12 of 80, you don't want to pit too early and leave yourself short towards the end of the race, not having enough tyres to last you till the end, as Jason Martin just clips the wall there very slightly as we go through turn number 2.
You can see these guys are really committed. They're getting as close as they can to the wall. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a little bit too close and they kiss the wall, but it doesn't seem to be affecting them at this stage.
No, a little bit of a side swipe against the wall is not too bad. It depends how much damage you do to the car, of course. Aero is important here, so you don't want to do it too much, but you can afford a little bit of a kiss now and again. Obviously, getting closer to the wall helps a little bit with aerodynamics, just helps get a little bit more speed down the straight, just helps lock off a little bit of air so you're not pushing through as much air, so you get a little bit more speed, obviously. As we see Hamish Gallagher getting a little bit of run there, but Micklemore just blocking it off well. But yeah, you've got to play that game here at Pocono. You've got to run close to the wall, and it's a bit of a scary game, especially as you come through those very, very slippery corners. And the car does start getting a little bit loose because you want to run as close to the wall, but you also want to run as far away from the wall as you can.
Yeah, and while things are going on, we can see the status quo has pretty much remained the way it is, although Hamish Gallagher's having a look around the outside of Josh Micklemore here.
Another look here, and he was trying to get it done, but this could leave him slightly hung out. If he doesn't get past Micklemore here, he could get caught up. He's managed to get a decent run off the corner, and that's going to allow him to slot in front of Micklemore. Jason Martin was trying to push his teammate along there to stop that from happening. Now Martin has to be careful of Skurlock as well, because Skurlock might be able to slot into position. He's getting pushed out into that slightly wider line right now, so Skurlock might get a little bit of a better run off here and get past Martin.
Which he does manage to do. Although Martin's not going to give up that easily.
No, as we come into that slightly tighter, slightly scarier corner onto the pit straight, you can lose a bit of speed being up high there. You get a lot of rubber and a lot of debris up there as well. And that's what happened to Skurlock there. Lost him a little bit of speed, but he managed to keep the car. And Jason Martin had to lift off a bit, and that's allowed Neil Pearson to get in front. And
now we're down looking at, I guess, the battle within the battle. Ed Foster, Danny G and Jason Hardigan there for 6th, 7th and 8th. They've sort of been nose to tail, or close as possible to nose to tail for the last 3 or 4 laps.
Yes, well, if you're watching in the background of that move between Martin, Skurlock and Pearson, as Martin looks like he might have just tapped the wall again there, you could have seen those 3 cars getting out wide as well. They were all battling with each other. And this is the time of the race where the tyres are going to start dropping off. Lap 15, as Gallagher almost touches the wall there. So close for that one. But this is where the tyres start dropping away. You're going to see Josh Mickelmore get past Gallagher here as he lost a little bit of speed lifting off. But this is where the tyre drop-off starts to happen. And we might start seeing those guys that were a little bit behind, not pushing too hard, start to catch up now.
Yeah, we can see all through the field there are battles happening. Poor JCW's got a little bit of battle, some battle scars on the back of his car.
Yes, that was from earlier when Shea Thompson just caught him in the back there. Hopefully it's not going to cause too much of an issue to the car being at the back there for the aerodynamics. Hopefully we'll have a bit of speed. Just jumping back, actually, Jason Hartigan is making a move on Danny G at the moment. They're side by side as we go through the corner, holding their positions well. And it looks like Hartigan might have made this one work, but he did go a little bit loose on the back, giving Danny G a better run off the corner. Danny G's managed to keep in front of Hartigan there. Brilliant driving from Danny G there. Just keeping the car straight and not losing that rear end meant he had the speed down the straight to get back past Hartigan.
And that was a big slide by Hartigan too as he got onto the straight. That enabled, like you said, that enabled Danny G to be able to have a little bit more speed and take back that position, or hold that position.
And just in the background, we can see Jake Maloney still flying up the course. He's setting 56.8s at the moment, which is about 0.3 of a second faster than anyone else other than Edward Foster that last time round. He's really flying along at the moment, trying to catch this group of cars.
And if he's able to maintain that kind of pace...
Oh, as we get Skurlock and Martin making contact. They managed to make contact just before pit road and have actually gone into the pits as we speak. Both of them making contact through that corner. Michael Skurlock losing the rear end there. The rear end just stepping out, and he went down into Martin. They managed to slow the cars down before they got into pit lane, so they might be able to get away slightly with that one, managing to get into pit lane on the end of that slide, but that's taken them out of that battle for the lead.
That was, I guess, if you're going to have a moment, that's probably the best place to have that moment, because they were able to make it back into pit lane. It'd be interesting though if they were slow enough once they crossed the control line.
That is the big question there, because obviously when a car is sliding on all 4 wheels, it gets very hard. As we see Gallagher back to the front, fighting with Micklemore. He gets a good run down the corner. He's going to have good exit speed here. He's also dragging along Neil Pearson. Neil Pearson is also given a little bit of a drag for Foster, but we're going to see Gallagher take the lead again here as he goes down the inside of Micklemore. Obviously, if they've managed to slow the cars down enough to get across the line and not get a penalty, then that will have worked out not perfectly for them, but it would have at least made it a little bit less painful. because they'll be able to just slap some new tyres on there, get a little bit of a repair done, hopefully, and then head back out the track, which they have done already. But this is the treacherous part of the race where those tyres start dropping off. This is the area where you need to just start easing off a little bit more, just relaxing, not pushing the car too hard. You almost need to not press the accelerator too hard as well. As we see Gallagher getting a bit loose on the exit of the corner on the start-finish straight again. Josh Micklemore was tucked up right behind him. He couldn't take advantage of that, but that's allowed Neil Pearson, Foster, Danny G, Jason Hartigan, and the group behind him to start catching up even more. And you can see those cars that were in the background, so a couple of laps ago, have now caught right up to this front pack. Just saving those tyres a little bit more, maybe paying dividends for them right now.
Yep, and Josh Micklemore has made that move stick on Hamish Gallagher, but it looks like we've got a yellow flag. Peter Clark, I think, may have come to grief. We'll have a look with the Dripping Paints graphics replay. And he's done it all on his own. He's had a tank slapper coming out of the corner and into the wall he goes. And
easy to do on these tyres, unfortunately. That is one of the things you have to really remain... You have to remain in a constant thing in your head when you're driving these cars at this stage of the race. It's the fact that the tyres are dropping away and you've got to be so very careful not to lose it on the exit of a corner. It just takes putting your foot down a little bit too quickly and all of a sudden the car will spin around on you and you've got no hope of regaining control.
So would this have given a free kick to Jason Martin and Michael Skurlock so early after they've had to pit? The caution has come out.
It may actually help them out because they will be on fresh tyres, but the thing is they might come in again just to get those repairs done a little bit more. One of the big things here as well is the pit time. It's such a long lap here as well, of almost a 1 minute lap. You can sometimes get in and out of the pit lane without too much trouble. You don't drop a lap down, and they have not dropped a lap down. That's one of the important things for those drivers. So they might actually get a little bit further back. They might be able to recover here. But of course, when all the drivers come back out onto those fresh tyres, when they've pitted, of course, they're going to have fresh tyres, of course. And Skurlock and Martin will have worn a little bit of the tyre away, and that could cause them to be a little bit slower. So we'll see what happens here. Will they come in for another stop? Will they come in just to get a little bit of repair done? Or will they try and stick it out there and see what they can do?
Definitely going to be an interesting one. We were just having a look at both Michael Skurlock and Jason Martin's car there. They didn't look like they had too much damage, but I guess it was a little hard to tell. And the cars are in for the pits, and we'll have a look and see if we can have a look at their pit stop time and see how they go.
Absolutely. Martin got off very luckily in that accident. He got a very little amount of damage, in all honesty. It could have been much, much worse for him. He got a bit of damage in the right front, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. As they come in for their pit stops, let's see how we go. The Battle of Pit Road starts. So looking like they've hit their marks well there. Josh Micklemore coming in. Perfect stopping for him. Going to see Jason Martin in the background just coming down the road. He's going to pull into his little pit stall now, just behind those leaders. You can see how much time he's lost by the fact of him just pulling into the pit stop now and Micklemore getting out. Edward Foster getting an absolutely brilliant pit stop there. Fantastic stop for Foster, climbing up the positions a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely great stop for Foster there. Micklemore was a 14.8, Foster a 14.3, Pearson 15.4, Gallagher 15.1, and Hardigan 15 flat. Yeah,
that was a brilliant stop. The drivers just mentioning that on the on their comms over the race there, just about that good pit stop. Josh Micklemore just managing to maintain the lead, but Foster really getting a few positions there from that stop, really helping him out. Just having a bit of a look down as well. So Michael Skurlock's still in the pit lane at the moment, so I imagine he's using this time to get those repairs done, get the car in a bit better shape towards the end of this race. Jason Martin's still standing still in the pit lane, probably just getting a few little repairs done, just so the car is a little bit better for the duration of this race, rather than the early couple of laps.
And here's an interesting turn-up. No, Lachlan must have had a problem when he came into the pits before, because I was looking at it thinking, that's unusual. He's now behind the safety car in P1, but he must have missed his pit bay or something happened to him, and he's back into the pits now.
Yeah.
So this is going to put Josh Micklemore in P1 with Ed Foster behind him and Neil Pearson and Hamish Gallagher, your top four there on the restart. Things look like they're playing into Ed's hands at the moment, but we still have a very long way to go.
Yeah, he's in a good position at the moment. Another one to watch out for is Jake Maloney. He's managed to work his way up there. As I said, he's gained 19 positions in this race. Foster gaining 11 as well. So let's just have that for a moment, because that's some serious gaining in the early stages of this race. But Maloney had a lot of speed as well on that first run. So we could see Maloney here pulling a rabbit out of the hat and getting a good run here. So we'll have to see how that goes. Before we go back to green as well, we just want to wish Jonathan Hancock a get well soon as well. He's been a little bit under the weather of late, so get well soon, Jono. We hope to have you back in the booth soon.
Get well, Jono. They're getting sick and tired of my commentary, mate. They need someone who knows what they're talking about in here.
And that's not me. That's definitely not me. Pace car is coming down the road now. We'll be going back to green relatively shortly. But yeah, Josh Micklemore definitely having a good run so far, but as I say, Jake Maloney's going to be the one to watch, I think, on this restart, because he had some serious pace all throughout that last stint. He could be one that could come out of nowhere and snatch this one. Foster as well had some seriously good pace too. The pace car's coming into the pit lane now. Restart's going to happen. Will Micklemore get another bad restart? We'll soon find out.
Let's turn it up for the next couple of laps and hear these cars.
Oh, and we've got a big wreck in the mid-pack there. A car has gone round. Looks like looks like Parry's gone round in the Red Bull car. A huge crash there as we were coming across the start-finish line. Just going back to have a bit of a look at that one. See what's happened there. So it looks like Norman Clark's just touched the wall slightly and gone into Parry there. Unfortunate there for Parry, having an absolute brilliant first outing into the Cup. Unfortunate there to get caught, just a little bit of a misfortunate place to be, but an easy crash to happen.
And it's that age-old saying, safety car breeding safety cars.
Yes, it's one of those things I've said many times. That could have been a much worse accident as well. A lot of cars doing very well to avoid that one. I was just looking back there, and Matt Hunter was very lucky there. He almost got a face full of another car there. That could have been a really damaging wreck for him, but he managed to avoid that one extremely well, just getting onto the brakes and just avoiding that accident perfectly. But yeah, safety cars, breeding safety cars, it's one of those things that we always say. Prominently, it's used in the sports car world because the tyre drop-off can be quite big there, but it usually happens. You get that little bit of lack of heat in the tyre, and all of a sudden the car just does something unexpected on that first fast lap.
Yeah, and these cars, Carl, the tyre temperatures come up fairly quickly, or do they take a lap or two before they sort of start to come on?
you'll generally find the first lap of green tends to be a little bit dicey on most tracks, depending on, of course, track temperature and all that. We've got quite a warm track of 47 tonight. But the thing about Pocono is it's not a very high grip circuit. So again, that can cause problems when the tyres aren't fully up to working temperature. So you do find sometimes that the tyres take 1 or 2 laps to just get in. Here at Pocono, it's usually about the 1 lap mark because you've got a fair amount of speed going in there and a lot of lateral movement on those tyres. But that was the sort of first lap under green, and that last corner is always a problematic corner, and just going a little bit wide there for Norman Clark, an easy thing to do, unfortunately. Just tag the wall slightly. If the cars weren't so close, he probably would have gotten away with it, and we wouldn't have seen much of a wreck there. Harry just being a little bit unfortunate just to get caught out where he did. But yeah, it's an easy thing to do, unfortunately. We do see a couple of cars coming into pit lane. Danny Albon coming into pit lane, getting a couple of repairs done. So one of the only higher up guys to be coming into the pit lane was Bradley Allison. But there are a few cars jumping down pit road as we speak to get a bit of a free repair. They might be thinking about adding a little bit of fuel as well, because of course fuel is another thing that can be important here at Pocono. Because it is quite a high revving track, and you're going to want to top up the tank a little bit. You're not going to make it home from here on fuel.
Yeah, and Jason Martin and both Michael Skurlock have stayed out, so obviously their cars are repaired and good to go. They're still on the lead lap, so it'll be very interesting to see what they can do from where they are.
Yeah, sitting down in 19th and 18th and 20th now, with Michael Skurlock in 18th and Jason Martin in 20th as we sit. So they've worked their way up the field a little bit there. They've done a good little bit of recovery drive. As I said, the one to watch on that restart was Jake Maloney, and he managed to do that, getting up to behind Neil Pearson there. A guy that dropped out a little bit was Hamish Gallagher. He had a little bit of a moment and just lost a couple of positions on that first restart. So, again, a driver having a little bit of trouble too. But coming up in 7th and 8th is obviously Norman Clark, a little bit of damage to the car, but Jason Hartigan just getting back up there as well. So those guys are going to start working well together. So, be interesting to see how they can go with each other.
Yeah, 100%, Carl. It'll be very interesting to see if they can make some headway. They've got some stiff competition ahead of them. Definitely, Jason's got the pace. He might be sort of conserving a little bit, trying to get a little bit more out of his tyres.
May well be, just not pushing too hard too early. Again, if we get a long green period like we had before, it can absolutely make a difference as well. Just making things a little bit easier for those longer stints. I didn't see if they actually did take new tyres on their pit stop last time round. I don't imagine they would have done, but it's hard to say without knowing for sure. So we'll have to see what they do as they go through this race, see what actually happens there.
Yeah, and the safety car lights are out now. Actually, I shouldn't call it the safety car. That's a circuit racing terminology. They call it the pace car, don't they?
Absolutely, pace car on an oval. Well, it tends to be in most American series, you seem to find. But I think our viewers will understand both terms.
Yeah, I think they'll cut me some slack for this one.
It's one of those things that's easy to say if you've grown up for years of European racing or circuit racing. It's the safety car is out, but like pace car on an oval because it's just keeping pace for everybody.
Absolutely.
The lights are out, so we're going to be going back to green very shortly. We saw that Josh Micklemore had a very good restart last time round. Will he manage to do it again? Will Foster have his better this time, having an eye into the actual restart process? We're coming around the last corner for the last time of this pace car section. So we'll see how this one goes.
And traditionally the last restart, Josh has wanted to get onto it fairly quickly, almost as soon as the pace cars come in, really.
Getting that early jump, and again he goes for it. looks like Foster was a little bit more ready this time. He's managed to get a good restart and keep to the side of Neil Pearson. Pearson's going to have a slightly better line into that first corner. And he's got a lot of cars behind him with Gallagher and Jason Hartigan as well. So we might see Foster hung out to dry on the outside, but he's getting a little bit of help from Maloney at the moment, getting a little bit of a push. But you've got to be careful on those slightly colder tyres not to lose it in these first couple of corners.
Yeah, and Foster's dropped down to fourth, actually.
Yes, and on that outside line, it can be very tricky. It's very easy to get hung out to dry there. And as I say, the trouble is you get a lot of marbles building up and a lot of tyre debris and things like that building up on the edges of those corners. So that's another thing you have to bear in mind for this race, is as it goes on, you've got more and more tyre debris out there, which causes more and more trouble if you go a little bit wide and can cause you just to touch that wall on the exit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Foster's done this a few times, so he knows what he's doing. He's managed to make his way back up to third. Hamish Gallagher now is fighting off Jake Maloney, who's having a really good look. Looks like he's going to be able to take that spot, but Foster comes right down in front of him.
Just chopping the nose off that attack. Foster knowing that if Maloney gets past, he's going to be a tricky one to catch because he has had that speed tonight. He's going to want to try and keep that position for as long as possible, but also not work the car too hard this early in the race. We're still only on lap 30, reminder, of an 80-lap race, as Maloney gets a good run off the corner again. We're going to see Maloney get down beside Foster. Here we are, and he's going to get that position. Foster might get a better run off the corner here, though, as Maloney gets on the curb. He taps Foster, and he's gone around slightly. He's managed to save the car. But Foster and Maloney have lost a bit of pace there. Foster getting a bit of damage on that front, on the left side of the car. And that's given Pearson and Micklemore a bit of a breathing gap.
Yeah, that was good driving there by Foster. Good awareness to be able to hold onto the car and keep it on the track.
Absolutely. A good save by both those drivers out there. It could have been a very, very ugly accident this far up in the field here at Pocono, especially on one of those tight corners. You don't want it to happen too early in the corner. If it's on the straight, it's not too bad. If it's mid-corner, sometimes that can really take out a lot of drivers in the field. But that definitely would have unsettled the car, and it makes it very hard to keep it going through that corner. So really well done to not lose more positions.
Absolutely. And Jake Maloney really, just looking at the times here, 55.5, 55.1 in front of him. So he's staying with the pack now. I mean, he's probably where he wants to be, and he can absolutely attack from where he is.
He can dictate his pace a little bit, and that's an important thing to do sometimes on these tracks, is not to go flat out and hell for leather too early in the race. We've seen it before on a few other tracks as well, and it is a thing. If you go too hard too early, you're going to start chewing your tyres up and then struggle more and more. The other thing that won't have helped Maloney was where he got a little bit loose. He did have quite a lot of movement sideways, which will have caused a bit of damage to those tyres and won't help him through the rest of this stint. So he's going to have to try and just ease them back into there, get them back into a nice comfortable operating area, let them cool down a little bit even maybe, just to get them back into that operating window and then go back on the attack. So he might start getting pace up again in the next couple of laps, as we see Gallagher going down the inside of Micklemore going a bit wider than normal, and that's going to allow Maloney to get through. Sorry, that's Pearson. Sorry, we see Pearson just dropping back behind Maloney now.
Yeah, it's easy to mistake Pearson for Micklemore. Up until now, they've been running that matte black paint for the DPR cars, and they're the I guess the matte white now.
Yes, a nice change in colour. I was just actually looking at Pearson because there's a bit of damage to the front of the car that I didn't notice before. So just wondering if he's had a little nibble of the barrier at some stage. That's just cost him a little bit of time. So I'll see if I can figure anything out there, but I can't see anything. Oh, there it is. So a couple of laps ago on lap 31, he just had a big moment going off the final corner and has got a fair bit of damage to the front of that car because he was running up there with Josh Micklemore earlier on in this race, and that bit of damage has cost him a bit of time now.
There you go. And Josh is all but checked out, although Hamish is starting to eat into his lead. It was just over half a second. Now it's down to about 3/10 of a second.
Yeah, Hamish Gallagher and Jake Maloney are definitely the cars on the move at the moment. They look like they've got the pace of anyone. So
50,
we'll see how well they go.
55.1 for both those cars on the last lap. Josh was a 55.2. Neil Pearson 55.8, 55.3 from Danny G, 55.4 from Ed Foster.
And you just saw there Jake Maloney going for another attack on Gallagher, and that's going to hurt his tyres in the long run. Very aggressive again from from Maloney early on in this race. We've seen it before. We've seen it before with Maloney, where he's been quite aggressive early on in the race and then struggled in later stints, just going a little bit hard on those tyres. Let's see how this one plays out, because he is really pushing that car at the moment. He's getting a lot of lateral movement, which is not going to help those tyres for their lifespan.
No, and he's dropped off the back of Gallagher's car as well. Gallagher is now all over the back of Mickelmore's car, so yeah, we'll see how that pans out. But you might have called it as well with Neil Pearson. He's coming under threat from under attack from Ed Foster now as well.
Yeah, it was quite a heavy hit on that right front as well, which is not going to help the aerodynamics of the car. Obviously, when you get a big hit like that on the front of a car, the aerodynamics get all wrinkled, the front of the car gets wrinkled, and it causes a bit of a... It's almost like having a bit of a boxy car next to a nice slippery car. You sort of get that wind effect, and it does slow the car a little bit, especially on these very fast speedways like Pocono.
Yeah, you can see now we're down with the battle pack with Josh Carroll, Walden, Devon Stone, Robert Fletcher. They all seem to be together. And in amongst all of those is Michael Skurlock.
Working his way back up the field slowly but surely. Those guys are working up there. Jason Martin is struggling a little bit by the looks of it. Skurlock is a little bit further up. Martin's still in that 20th position. Skurlock's managed to work his way up to 15th. So we'll have to see how that one unfolds as well. Maybe Martin's just being a little bit cautious out there, as we see just behind, we see Stephen Williams getting into the wall that time round. I almost called it Neil Pearson. The change of the car colour has thrown me out completely, but Stephen Williams was catching up to Jason Hartigan quite well, and he had a similar incident to Neil Pearson, just going up into the wall onto the front straight. He managed to catch the car somehow, but he did lose a lot of time from that one.
And while all that's going on, the top three, Mickelmore, Gallagher, Maloney, they're nose to tail.
And it looks like Maloney's managed to get the car back to his liking. Just taking a couple of laps just to get used to the slight different handling, the tyre change, the way the car changes after those little incidents. But he's managed to get it back working now. He's setting the fastest laps of this race, and he is catching those guys incredibly quickly. Setting a 55.7 on the last lap compared to a 56 and a 56.1 of Hamish Gallagher.
Now you almost get the impression that Maloney's just sitting back, waiting to see what's going to happen with the guys in front of him, maybe working to conserve fuel, keeping his tyres under check until he feels that it's the right time for him to make his move.
Yeah, this is a good place to be in for fuel-related issues. Obviously, getting that little bit of draft can help, but Maloney is looking for positions. He's really trying hard to get those positions up. You can see him fighting every lap now, trying to get down beneath Hamish Gallagher, and trying to put Hamish Gallagher onto that slightly higher line, trying to force him to make a slight mistake there to allow him to get past. So he's putting pressure on those guys. He's not giving up too much. So he's still pushing the car quite hard. Will this come back to bite him a little bit later in this race?
Yeah, we still have a lot of racing to go. Just one lap shy of half race distance.
It's slowly starting to unfold as we go along. Mickelmore, though, having a great run out front still, just managing to keep the pace of that car. He's going to have an attack from Gallagher this time into the first corner, it looks like. Gallagher getting a great run there. He's going to want to try and go down to the inside, but he's also going to try and defend himself from Jake Maloney. So it's a difficult position to be when you're that middle car in a three-car fight. As Maloney gets a little bit loose again, the back end steps out, he manages to catch it, but again, that car just looking a little bit looser than the rest.
And you can see from the graphics here, the back end of Micklemore's car just starting to step out slightly going around that corner.
And it's around the same sort of time on those tyre lives as we saw last time round. This is where you start having tyre life just starting to drop down a little bit. As we can see there with the beautiful camera angles from Track Cams for Gourmet, and that's trackcams22.com. Always giving us some great looks of these cars.
Yeah, these camera angles are absolutely brilliant. Highly recommend them for anyone looking to broadcast or even stream your own races. Fantastic camera angles for a wide variety of oval, dirt, and circuits.
Yeah, giving us some great pictures here tonight at Pocono. But Maloney again just getting a little bit loose mid-corner. He seems to be really struggling with that back end mid-corner, catching it well though and not losing time. But the car is definitely looking like a bit more of a handful than everyone else's at the moment. We can see just in the background as well, it looks like Jason Hartigan's making a move on Foster at the moment. Hartigan getting very loose there as he goes through the corner. Just seeing if actually made contact, because Foster lost a lot of time there. Foster getting very close to his teammate. Just looks like Foster just had a bit of a slow entry. Hartigan had an absolute stormer through there. The two managed to miss each other by a cigarette paper. Great driving there.
Yeah, and all the while that this is going on, Danny G is slowly creeping up to the back of the lead train here.
He's creeping there, and that's what Danny G's done all season. He's had some great performances this year, but his consistency and his ability to set some good lap times have been absolutely vital. We see in the background Bradley Allison coming in for a pit stop. Looks like Bradley Allison's coming in for some fresh tyres right now, expecting there to be a bit more of a green flag period here. So he might be looking to try and go towards the end of this race from here.
Yeah, well, they've been green for a while now, and you'd probably want to say that they're going to start thinking about pitting and changing tyres soon.
Well, one of the big things, of course, in a green flag run like this is if you can get the undercut working for you, it can really pay dividends. So you can get a lot of time gained from that and gain a fair few positions as well. But obviously, you also run the risk of that pace car coming out and ruining your plans. If that pace car comes out, you're going to lose a lot of time there. So we see Gallagher dropping down now and just allowing Maloney past. Gallagher just dropping down, letting Maloney slip past. And I've got to say, that's probably something more to do with fuel than anything else. Maloney's probably just... Gallagher's probably just let him pass to try and save a little bit more fuel. You've got to ask, though, if that's the case, then Josh Micklemore's going to have to start thinking about that too shortly.
And Gallagher's all over the back of Josh Micklemore, almost bump drafting him along that straight there.
Yeah, they are getting so close now. And Maloney gaining 23 positions this race, which is a very good thing to do. And pretty much all of those passes were done under green as well. So he's really flown up the field so far. But we'll just have to see how his tyres hang on.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I guess these guys are going to want to stay out as long as they possibly can, hope for a safety car so they can duck in and do their tyre change, otherwise come in at the very last minute to get their tyres changed and hope that it's green running from there on in.
Yeah, it's that gamble you have to pay, and we saw this with Gallagher's win this season, where he came in a little bit earlier than everybody else and stayed out there on tyres while others pitted, as we see Maloney now going for the lead, taking the lead from Micklemore. Micklemore just allowing him through kind of there, but then Maloney losing a bit of time into the corner, which has allowed Micklemore to get back side by side with him. So Micklemore's managed to regain that position, And with all of this chopping and changing, it's allowed Danny G to get right onto the back of Gallagher.
So it looks like they're switching backwards and forwards every lap. One of the cars is getting a good run on the inside and then going slightly wide, which allows the other car to get an inside run on them.
It could well be a thing of fuel saving here. We can see the cars behind catching up as well. It's just that thing of nobody really wanting to lead the race, but also not wanting to lose time. It's a hard thing to do sometimes because obviously if you're trying to run fuel numbers, you don't want to be in the lead necessarily. And that can sometimes be quite hard if somebody else is going a bit slower than you would expect them to. So you can see here a great battle between Mickelmore and Maloney, but I think it's a battle for trying to get P2 in the race rather than P1 at the moment, as it looks like they're just trying to slot into positions so that he can keep a little bit of fuel mileage up. But they're also trying not to lose time right here, and that's the big thing for Josh Mickelmore, is he can't drop off too much because he's going to lose a lot of time. There's only about 3 seconds between him and 5th place now. They have been catching every single lap now by a fair rate of knots because of this little switch around at the front, just trying to save a little bit of fuel and not be in the lead almost.
Absolutely, and this has really played into the hands of Danny G because he's right up behind them now. But look at the behind Danny. Hardigan and Foster are nose to tail, and they are probably where they want to be, and they can start working together now.
Absolutely, and just behind them we have the 2 DPR cars of Neil Pearson and Stephen Williams. Again, another couple of teammates in a good position for themselves, making themselves get up the ranking and be in a good sort of position for both of them. Stephen Williams gaining 18 positions, as well as Raymond Yeager behind him. Both of them gaining 18 positions this race. Really good running for them.
And Neil Pearson's right into the side of Jason Hardigan, and that brings out the pace car.
Yeah, it looks like Foster was pulling out there. Hardigan was catching up, going up, and he's just moved down a little bit too early there, and just poor Pearson, who was a bit of an unfortunate passenger there. Pearson's actually managed to get back on the gas quite early and stay into 8th place. So it wasn't as disastrous as it could have been. A little bit of damage to the car. That could have been a lot worse, but he managed to save that car incredibly well. So great driving there for Pearson. Absolutely brilliant save.
Brilliant save, yes. And this would have played right into the hands of the leaders here.
They are going to be so happy about this one. On lap 48, getting a caution here. That's basically your pit strategy done for the day. You can now just run to the end. You're going to have to be a bit careful on the tyres, of course, but that's effectively your pit strategy done. 32 laps to go. Of course, a few of these are going to be under caution. No need to worry about fuel anymore. It's just keeping those tyres alive.
So from here on, after this stop, it's really going to be about whoever can manage their tyres the best to maybe push for the last few laps.
That is it. It's going to be who can keep their tyres alive to the end of the race, because it's going to be a bit of a longer stint. We've seen a close to sort of 30 lap stint, but not quite there yet. That last stint was around about 26 laps, so 27 laps for that last stint. So they've not done a proper full stint yet. I think they were playing around a little bit just on fuel with that last one, so we might still see a splash and dash needed for a couple of drivers. But I think we should be pretty much clear now to the end of the race if everybody just, if you don't run it too rich too quickly.
Yeah, and this is going to be it, isn't it? It's being able to manage the tyres, manage the fuel, and this is really going to be a nail biter. It's going to go all the way down to the wire.
And we're into the race for pit lane now. So who is going to manage to come out of this one on top? Will we see another lightning pit stop for Foster? Maloney also has to stop quite far down the field. And it looks like he slid a bit into his pit stop, so he might not have the best stop time there. He didn't get quite in perfectly, so he might have a little bit of time lost on that one. So as they go up and down, Maloney getting away quite well, actually. He didn't lose too much time. He actually gained a position. So he's back up there in second place now. So it worked out well for Maloney there. He managed to just catch it in the nick of time, it looks like, and just perfectly stop that car. Foster getting another great stop, coming out in third place.
Absolutely. So pit stop times 14.5 for Mickelmore, 14.9 for Maloney, 15 for Foster, and 15.1 for Danny G.
Yeah, a few longer pit stops for a couple of those drivers, and they might have just been getting a little bit more fuel, a little bit of damage repaired, maybe. A few drivers sort of get those little bits done as they're getting these pit stops done, and don't mind losing a couple of positions. But yeah, it can really change things up right here. And through those pit stops as well, Jason Martin is a big gainer. Jason Martin now sitting up in P11. So Martin now, that was his third pit stop. So if he's taken tyres every stop, he's only got one set of tyres left, or has he got none left? I'm trying to think now. I think he's only got the single set left in there. So he's pretty much done for tyres now, whereas everybody else has got a free stop for tyres pretty much. So there are a couple of drivers out there that have done free stops. And if they took tyres every time, they might be running a little bit thin on the amount that they still have left in there. Interestingly, Bradley Allison stayed out in that one because he did pit earlier on, remember? So he's actually managed to gain positions and get to the front of the field, but he's on tyres that are now almost 7 laps older than the rest of the field. So he might have a bit of trouble here on the restart, but it was a bit too early to come in for that extra stop.
So really, if we get another caution period later on towards the end of the race, it's really going to play into the hands for some of the guys who have only taken 3 sets of tyres at this stage.
Yes, it could work out well for some of these guys. So we'll have to see how that one unfolds as it goes. But currently, the guy that's come out in front is Bradley Allison. So getting a couple of laps led here for Allison. And again, just a very good first season for Bradley Allison as well. He's been very strong this year in the rookie season for the Cup run. So we'll see Josh Mickelmore starting on the outside this time, and this could be really important for Jake Maloney right here, because obviously Bradley Allison's tyres are not going to be as fresh as those around him. So if Bradley Allison gets in the way of Maloney, Maloney could drop a few positions here. This could really play out into the hands of Mickelmore and Foster for this restart, as well as Stephen Williams as well. So Stephen Williams sitting there behind Foster too. So those guys could be in for a good restart as we go back to green.
And Mickelmore looks like he's had a great restart. Foster's been caught napping there, so Jake Maloney's been able to stay with Mickelmore. He's gone to the high line, but Allison's not going to let them have it their own way either.
No, Allison has got some speed left in those tyres, as we see Danny G making a bit of a mistake coming into that corner. He's lost the car a bit. He's managed to kind of save it. He's going across, and is he going to get anyone? No, he just manages to avoid a big incident there. He got a little bit loose going back onto the racing line, going across a few bumps. Almost had a big accident, but this has allowed Josh Mickelmore and Jake Maloney to start having a battle. For now the lead, as we see Bradley Allison dropping back a little bit, and Maloney takes the lead.
And now the battle starts for first again. Bradley Allison in third, Raymond Yeager in fourth, and Ed Foster seems to be falling a little bit.
He might just be running a little bit to numbers at the moment, just because they might be a little bit shy of their finishing numbers for their fuel count. So he might just be not pushing it too hard too early here, just preserving the car a little bit and playing the tortoise game, letting the hares run away a little bit early on. But he's going to start catching up a little bit later in this one. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Also have to remember there is a bit of damage to Foster's car as well, and that could be sort of hindering him right now.
Yeah, for sure. And Foster's no stranger to strategy. He knows what he needs to do. And it makes sense. If these guys have got to come in for a splash and dash, if he conserves a little bit, he'll be stationary for less time.
That is it. It's all about spending the most time on track and being fast out on track. It's a very important thing to do in strategies, and we've seen it throughout history in most different disciplines of motorsport, be it Formula One or endurance racing. But generally, the car that spends the least time in pit lane is the car that does well in the race. Not always the case, but often the case.
Absolutely. And Jake Maloney looks like he's starting to check out now. That could come back to bite him later on in the race, though.
It could do. We see him just getting a little bit loose there through the corner again, just having to correct the car. But we have seen Maloney fast through this whole race. He has managed to keep the car going relatively quickly for a relatively long time. But we might see him just starting to get a little bit of a bite a little bit later on, from about around about lap 65, I'd say. Lap 65, lap 70, we might see him starting to drop off. Foster's moved back up into third now, getting past Allison, and now there's a battle between Allison and Jaeger starting to heat up as well.
Yeah, and Foster has shown a clean pair of heels. 54.8 on that last lap. Jake Maloney did a 54.8, and Josh Mickelmore 54.9.
Yeah, they're getting some good times out there. Driver that looks like he might be having a little bit of trouble at the moment is Hamish Gallagher, just having a few connection issues by the looks of it. So he's actually just dropping down to the lower racing line, just keeping out of everybody's way, really, just until that blinking comes to a finish. So hopefully he'll be able to keep the car out there and not get into any trouble. But you can just see down the front straight now, Bradley Allison just losing heaps of time off the exit of that corner. He's now got Jason Martin behind him, who's worked his way up into 9th, soon to be 8th place.
Yeah, you can see those 7-lap older tyres really make a huge difference, and Bradley Allison is just bleeding positions at the moment.
And it's all about the exit speed. It's not too bad once the car gets up to speed, but when you're going through the corner and on the exit, that's where you lose that speed, because the tyres just don't have the adhesion that they need to launch you off the corner, and you start losing speed down that straight section. We also see in the background from Jason Martin, Michael Skurlock as well, working his way up. He's currently in 12th place as well. So good recovery drives from both of them. So a very good recovery drive for Martin and Skurlock after that early incident in the green flag period. To have to pit under green and get back to those positions is a seriously decent effort.
Yeah, they've done incredibly well to be where they are, and they're looking quite racy as well.
They really are, as we see a battle between the two Jasons now, as Jason Hartigan and Martin start to have a bit of a battle between themselves. And we had forward, and there is a car off in the background, very much at the back of the grid. It looks like Rob Fletcher's had a big moment, a little bit further down the grid, just getting loose through the corner. But we did have a 4 wide moment going through one of the corners. Everybody was a little bit of a sketchy moment there for a few people.
And it looks like Rob Fletcher is in the pits now.
Yeah, he took a very heavy hit. I think he may have got some engine damage for that one. So seriously big whack there, which is a bit of a shame because was having a pretty stellar race in the midfield there. Again, driver just getting the experience down and getting the laps under the belt. back at the front, we can see that Josh Micklemore is starting to sort of keep pace and even gain on Jake Maloney now. That last lap was a 55.2 for Maloney and a 55.1 for Micklemore. But you can visually see they're getting closer and closer each time. Has Maloney bolted a little bit too quickly and worn the tyres down a bit?
Yeah, it did look like he had checked out there a few laps ago, and looked like he was on a charge. So I don't know whether he's decided to ease up a little bit, or whether he has gone out a little bit too hard too soon, and burnt those tyres up.
Yeah, well, he's setting times that are around about 4 tenths slower than that of Micklemore and Foster behind him. So we'll have to see how that shakes out as we go through. Um, see how that one turns out for him, because it might be that his tyres are just starting to drop off a little bit, because Micklemore is all across the back of them at the moment.
Yeah, and before I did see Maloney soaring at the wheel as he was going through the corner, and Micklemore just makes an easy pass. I think maybe Maloney just opened the door for him there.
We might be just seeing Maloney just dropping back behind to help with fuel mileage again, as the two are nose to tail down the start-finish straight there. Nothing between the two cars right there. They are really, really on it there. You've got to be careful doing that, though, because the car can overheat very quickly. When you're running that close to somebody else's car, it's very easy to blow a motor.
So this could basically be some strategy from Maloney here. Maybe a little bit of fuel saving behind Micklemore.
He might be looking to get a little bit of draft as well, just to help him keep pace if he has dropped those tyres off a little bit. We'll have to see how he can do, what he can do about Foster behind as well, because if Micklemore is able to keep the pace up, he should start pulling away from Maloney. We should start seeing Foster starting to close that gap relatively shortly. And if that happens, we know that Maloney's started to bake his tyres a little bit too quickly.
Well, looking at the last lap time, Micklemore did a 55.7, Maloney was a 55.9, and Foster now a 56 flat.
They're very close in times. Micklemore's setting those fast laps still, but what he's doing with that is he's kind of dragging Maloney with him. So having a good run there.
But I don't know if this is going to affect Maloney as he's coming out of the corners. If you have a look, you'll see the back end of his car just has a little bit of a wag. I don't know if that's actually going to affect him towards the latter part of the race, or if it's even affecting him now.
One would think it would start to affect the car more and more as it goes on, of course, because the more you put into those tyres, the quicker they degrade, and then the worse they get. It's almost like driving on ice or very wet roads. The car just starts to slip around a little bit and lose that grip. But the big thing is if those back tyres do drop off, you then start losing time on the straights, and that's where your speed drops significantly. And that's what we've seen with Bradley Allison, who stayed out there with those slightly older tyres. He's just dropped right down the field now, because he's had those tyres. He's actually come in for another pit stop now to get those fresh boots back on. But he was struggling so much with the getting off corners. He was losing pace down the straights, and that's what really affects you with tyre wear.
Yeah, 100%, and it's really not played into Bradley Allison's hands. I mean, he's going to have the fresh tyres now, so he's going to be able to move up the field. But I think if there's another pace car, he's really going to be stuck. I think he's used up all of his sets of tyres now.
Yeah, I think that's it for him for tyres now. He is done and dusted. There's a few drivers out there that I think have used up their tyre allocation now. So if we do see a pace car come out in the next couple of laps, those guys will gain positions overall, most likely, but then they'll start losing them as the cars on those fresher tyres start to catch up to them and start to gain pace. And just glancing back a little bit further, we've got a fantastic battle forming between, from fifth onwards, with Raymond Yeager, Jason Martin, Joshua Carroll Walden coming up there as well, Jason Hartigan, Neil Pearson, Matthew Cluett, Shea Thompson, and Devon Stove just on the back of that group of cars. A really nice pack forming up there, and some really good battles going on as Jason Martin goes very, very wide there. He's going to lose a few positions from that one.
Yeah, that was probably uncharacteristic, Jason Martin, but I think he was pushed wide there, and there was no place for him to go.
No, being caught on the outside line there is not that fun because, as I said earlier in the race, you get all of the tyre drop off, you get all of the marbles falling up there, and that starts to cause problems for these cars, and they just start to drift more as you go into those corners. As we see them going 3 wide there for part of that corner, it starts to cause problems because you just slip up the track and you lose time from that one.
Yeah, and as we see Jason Martin all over the back of Jason Hartigan's car, we've kind of seen it on and off all night, the battle of the two Jasons.
Yeah, they've been battling very hard up there as Joshua Carroll Walden a little bit further in front gets past Raymond Yeager. Yeager getting a good run off the corner though, so he might be able to get his way back past back past JCW.
Yeah, and it looks really close at the moment. JCW is doing everything he possibly can to get that pass done on Yeager, but Yeager's not going to have any of it.
No, Yeager positioning the car very well there, sort of holding it in the middle of the track, but he's gone up a little bit high this time round, so that's going to affect the launch of the car off the straight section and going to allow Joshua Carroll Walden to get through. Will he be able to go do the undercut? Will he be able to get back past Carroll Walden through turn number 1? We'll soon find out. If JCW can cut down, it looks like Raymond's managed to get down there first, so he's managed to block off that inside for Carroll Walden, which will cause him to go a little bit wide and give him the runoff of this corner and hopefully a little bit more power so he can get into the next set in front.
Yeah, it's certainly not done and dusted by any stretch of the imagination. These guys are going at it, and the position isn't sold. And oh, here we go, contact!
Contact between Yeager and Pearson there. Unfortunate there. It looked like Yeager had a little bit of a wobble mid-corner there, just losing the car slightly through the corner. And again, Neil Pearson just being unlucky. Being unlucky there as Yeager's gone around and just caught Pearson by the looks of it. One of those little incidents that can happen on these tyres as they start to wear down, unfortunately. And I think at the back of that, we might have seen a couple of cars just having to slow down a little bit from that incident as well. But yeah, real unfortunate one for Pearson there. He had a big moment, but luckily the greens stayed out.
Yeah, it's not played into anyone's hands, really. The green has stayed out, so unfortunately Pearson's going to go down. He's going to lose some time and probably go down a lap, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him drop down a lap here from the front runners, just because of all the damage. He might just be calling it a night as well, but relatively strong performance there from Pearson, but just unlucky in a few positions tonight. He got unlucky in some of those corners. Out up front, though, we still have Micklemore leading Maloney, and those two are pretty much nose to tail at the moment, but they're sort of swapping each other for fast times and managing to pull away a bit from Foster. So Foster's sort of caught out in the middle now between Maloney and Stephen Williams, so not really anything he can do from this position.
No, he's kind of the lonely guy out there, and all the while Stephen Williams is slowly catching up to him.
Very, very slightly in the laps, Williams getting there. He might be able to get there towards the end of this race. We'll have to wait and see, but there is quite a decent gap between Foster and Williams now, so he has got a bit of breathing room. He might just be sitting back there again, just not pushing too hard and hoping these leaders just wear their cars out a little bit. or possibly have a little bit of an altercation or make a mistake as they're battling very hard at the front.
Absolutely, and you can see the usual suspects: Michael Skurlock, Jason Martin, Jason Hardigan on the previous lap. They all did 56s to everyone else's 57, so they're turning the wick up as well.
Yeah, they've got some great pace in that car. I was actually going back to have a little bit of a look between Mickelmore and Maloney, and they've been making slight contacts down the straight, just a little bit of bump drafting here and there for those two. So a little bit of contact as Jason Martin finds the wall again, and this is going to allow Matthew Clerc to get past him. So we're going to see Martin just drop back behind Clerc as we see the other Jason Hartigan, going down the inside of Joshua Carroll-Walden there.
Yeah, Jason Martin hasn't had the night that he's wanted to have tonight, but it's still not bad. I mean, he's sitting in 8th place. It certainly could have been a lot worse for him when he had his moment with Michael Skurlock earlier on tonight.
When you can get wrecked in the early stages of this race, spun around and have to take a green flag pit stop and still finish in the top 10, purely down to really green flag pace, that says a lot about your skill and capability. It is one of those threatening things from Jason Martin. He is very fast when he needs to be, and even though it's not been the cleanest of drives out there for him, he still managed to gain those positions back and get into the top 8 as it stands.
100%. Hats off to him, because it's definitely not something that I'd be able to do. And all the while, in position 11, you've got Michael Skurlock that's threatening and is starting to sort of turn it on a little bit.
Yeah, trying to get Raymond Yeager here, just doing his best to get past that car and get into the top 10. He's going to want to get up there, of course, because a couple of championship rivals. His championship rival is Ed Foster at the moment. His other rival is Danny G, who's down there in 13th position. We saw him have that moment and lose a lot of time in the middle of this race. So he's lost a lot of positions, but he's catching up to Skurlock now. So if Danny G can get past Skurlock, that's going to help him in the championship aspect of this season as well. But if the worst case scenario and he finishes just one place behind him, he's not going to be too upset about that, I'm sure.
No, absolutely not. And meanwhile, Jason Hardigan's made his way around Matt Cloet.
A great drive again from Hardigan, a really good recovery drive. We saw a couple of times there, a couple of little mistakes creeping in, but he is managing to get the car up there again, up into 6th place as it stands behind Joshua Carroll-Walden, who we haven't seen too much this season, unfortunately, due to work aspects. But he's getting another strong performance tonight, doing very well as Clerc comes down through and past Hartigan. A great move there for Clerc. Really muscles his way through that position.
Yeah, that was a great move from Cloet. Hardigan had no answer for that and just had to open the door and let him through.
Yeah, he really couldn't do much there. It's one of those moves that basically you muscle your way through and you put a lot of faith in the driver you're overtaking as well. You hope that they're going to be kind enough not to cause a big accident, and great driving there from both drivers not to cause a wreck. As we see Jason Hartigan trying again to get back down past Clerc. Up at the front, Josh Mickelmore is still leading, and there is nothing between the first and second place guys. As we go through these laps, Edward Foster is starting to catch back up to their pace. The last couple of laps, he's been very, very slightly faster than those leaders, and he is slowly catching on them. But can he do it? There's only 8 laps to go here tonight.
Yeah, there's not many laps to go. He's actually been the fastest of the 3 for the last few laps, but unfortunately, the laps are starting to count down now. Maybe if Ed's got something in reserve, he's left his run for a little bit too late. I still think that Jake is sort of buying his time and he's going to make a move soon.
We'll have to wait and see on that one. He is very much right on the back of Mickelmore, though. Really pushed him along. The big thing here for Mickelmore is, fuel going to be starting to be a problem. tyre wear going to start to be a problem out in the lead for so long? Those things can start to happen. So we'll have to see how that one works out as well, because we could see these cars start to drop off with about 5 laps to go. There is still time for things to go wrong, of course, but as it stands, it doesn't look like that. They look pretty much in control of it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is the, I guess this is the crazy time. This is the time when people will start sort of looking for that extra gap, looking for the opportunity that may not exist. And of course, their tyres are getting fairly well worn, so the cars aren't behaving themselves at this stage.
No, we're on lap 25 of this stint, so those tyres are going to start being very, very temperamental as you start going through the corners, and you're just going to have to be careful not to push too hard on the exit, not to spin the car. So it could easily happen as we get a bit of contact down the back between Bradley Allison and Lachlan. Just a little bit further down, Danny Albin getting a big bit of contact there. Manages to get back going, but the car's looking a little bit dishevelled.
And meanwhile, while all of that's going on at the back of the field, Maloney's made the move on Michelmore. He's trying to make it stick. Michelmore is not going to give it up without a fight. These guys are almost nose to tail, and something's happened with Maloney's car. I don't know what's happened there. He went really wide and has slotted in behind Michelmore.
Yeah, so just watching that one, it looks like he has gone down a little bit too low maybe and just lost a little bit of time, maybe just saving the car a little bit. It's not affected him too much. It's given him a bit more time on the back, but we can see that you can get that draft and actually get past on the back as well. Yeah, we've seen that before, so he might just be slotting himself in, just doing a bit of a practice run for that white flag lap, for that Hybrid Racing Solutions white flag lap. So we'll have to see how that one works out. While they're doing that, Foster's still slowly creeping towards him. He's going to try his best to get up there. Don't know if he'll be able to do it, though.
He was 0.4 of a second faster than either of the two on the last lap. But yeah, the laps are slowly creeping down. 5 laps to go. Foster's starting to have a look, but he's got a bit of distance to cover, and those laps are running out very, very quickly.
Yeah, he's managed to slot himself in a good position, but it's just doesn't have the time to get sort of up there, possibly. A little bit further back, we've got a great battle going on for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th and 11th, I think. Between a lot of drivers there. Jason Hartigan on Joshua Carroll Walton having a great fight. Danny G getting into this battle. Danny G's managed to get past Skurlock and now overtaking his teammate of Jason Martin. So a great drive for Danny G there, recovering extremely well.
Big hit on the wall there from Jason Hartigan.
That's going to cost a lot of time to Cluett, and he's managed to get back in front there, but that was a big crunch there, and that cost Cluett a lot because of his positioning. It's managed to help Danny G an enormous amount, as well as Raymond Yeager. We see Jason Martin now going down the middle of the track. They're going to go too wide into the corner here. Behind them, we've got Skurlock having a flyer on Cluett as they go 3 wide into the corner. A little bit of contact between Cluett and Skurlock there as well.
Yeah, Hartigan's car does not look happy at all.
It looks a bit of a handful, especially after that crunch. It was a fairly hefty whack as well. Sometimes if you catch these cars side on into a wall, it's not too bad. But when you sort of go front in like Hartigan did, that really hurts the car and can damage steering arms and things like that. And that's where you start to lose a lot of speed. Just in front of them in 4th place is Stephen Williams, who's having another great run. 22 positions gained in this race. Really just working quietly there. A little bit further behind Foster, who's also having a quiet moment, as we see Josh Michelmore and Jake Maloney going back to it. Jake Maloney going down the inside of turn 1 and making the move for the lead. Will he be able to keep it stuck this time? Looks like he's got a very good pass and made up a bit of time there on Michelmore. Brilliant turn for Maloney there.
Yeah, just faked Michelmore slightly wide, went down the inside, and That was pretty much all he said. I had the feeling that Maloney was sizing up Micklemore for a move, and he's decided that now's the time, and he's going to show him a clean pair of heels.
I think he's going to press the go button now. We should see some very fast times from Maloney, but he's got to be careful still because it's so easy to have that moment and lose time. So he's got to be careful not to sort of run the car up the track a little bit. But he's definitely got some pace in that car.
Yeah, he seems to have the pace in the car. And like you said, there's 2 laps to go. He doesn't want to push too hard. It's so easy from here for something to sort of let go, for the tyres to let go. But he's in a commanding position at the moment.
He is absolutely. And just a little bit further down the field, somebody that had a bit of an accident earlier on, Parry Anastakis, coming up the field. He's 1 lap down, but he's managed to get up to 20th position. So a good recovery for his first run in the Cups. Managed to qualify in 22nd, managing to get up to 20th position. Not a bad run at all there. But Jake Maloney definitely has the pace at the moment. What Micklemore needs to do now is just get into that slipstream, get into that draft, and start gaining a little bit of time on him. If he can manage to do that in the last lap, he could possibly get Maloney here. It's still not over and done with.
Yeah, we're the 1 lap to go by Hybrid Racing Simulations here. Maloney is covering off as best he can, trying to break that draft from Micklemore.
He is all over the track trying to break the draft everywhere he can, but you've got to be careful doing that because sometimes you can position the car poorly for a corner coming up. But it looks like he's got everything under control at the moment. Seems to be going well for him. Will we see Micklemore manage to get a run here as they come through the corner? Does not look like it. Maloney steaming in control as they come up to the start-finish line. And Jake Maloney takes this one. A fantastic victory there for Jake Maloney. 24 positions gained in that race. Josh Micklemore pretty much drove faultlessly through that race. Just got caught on those last couple of laps by Maloney. But another strong finish for Micklemore. Foster there in 3rd. P3 for Foster. So I'm sure he's going to be quite happy with that one. Stephen Williams up there in 4th place. Another good strong run. 22 positions gained. Danny G managing to finish in 2nd after all of that. Very good recovery for him. Joshua Carroll Walden 6th with Raymond Yeager in 7th. Jason Martin managed to get to 8th. Again, a great recovery drive. Raymond Yeager actually as well. 20 positions gained in that race. So really strong drive for him. Michael Skurlock managed to finish in 9th as well. So again, another great recovery there. And finally, Norman Clark finishing out the top 10. So a good finish for him too. Not going to be too upset for that. Then we come down to 11th place with Jason Hartigan. 12th was Shay Thompson. Matthew Clerk with 13th. 14th was Matt Hunter. Phil Otto 15th with Devon Stove 16th. 17th was Luckland with Nathan Clive in 18th. 19th was Danny Albon with Bradley Allison in 20th. Peter Clark 21st. Perry finished in 22nd in the end. Tristan Koch 23rd. Neil Pearson 24th. 25th was Gareth Anderson. Rob Fletcher 26th. 27th Hamish Gallagher. Hammy Stein 28th. 29th was James Roby. Mark Johansson in 30th. Jackson Callow 31st. And Adam Button, don't think he actually made the start, down in 32nd place. But absolute brilliant run there for Jake Maloney. Masterclass for that race.
Yeah, absolutely well done. Fantastic race.
And yeah, really coming up after qualifying there, really just flying up the field as he went through there and doing a great job to get up there in that sort of into that first position. Was fighting all race long there with Josh Micklemore. Did a great job to get that P1.
Now let's see if we can find some of these guys and have a chat to them.
Yes, now comes the hard part of hunting racing drivers down. So we'll see what we can do with that part.
Maybe we'll break with convention and start with 3rd place.
We'll work our way down from third, I think. Yeah, it looks like
Let's get Edward Foster in.
Edward Foster. Congratulations on P3 there.
Sorry, mate, I missed the start of what you're saying. Then you're just a bit just dropped out. I'm guessing.
Just say congratulations on P3.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, P3, I'll take it.
It looks like it wasn't a straightforward race out there tonight. Obviously qualifying a little bit lower down than you probably would have hoped, but managed to gain 10 positions overall in that race and get up there for that P3 finish. Strong race all in all for you.
Yeah, I mean, I usually race pretty well here. I won this race last year. It just seems to be one of the tracks I just seem to do well at for whatever reason. Qualifying lap wasn't particularly good. I was finding that my second lap was the quicker of the two, and unfortunately I made a mistake on the second lap, so I had to rely on the time that I set on the first lap. So, yeah, it wasn't that good. Started a little bit further back, but I think the outside line got a pretty poor getaway, and I was able to gain a lot of spots there. I think a lot of the guys that were on that outside line at the start, I managed to jump in the first lap. And, yeah, everything was going good. Car was going well. Ended up coming home P3, and if old Captain Starton Park spent a bit more time in these races, he might learn to hold a line, and my aero could have stayed intact, and maybe I would have had two places better, but we'll never know.
Yes, obviously a bit of a collision there through the corner, mid-corner incident, wasn't it? Which is never fun. How much did that affect the car?
It really took the edge off the straight line speed, for certain. I mean, I could sit in someone's draft. Not long after that, I was up in Danny G's draft, and he was just gradually edging away from me, even with the slipstream and everything else. So absolutely killed the straight line speed. The handling didn't seem to be too badly affected. It was okay through the corners. It did start to wear out the right front pretty significantly late on, but that was kind of the way this setup was anyway. That after a few laps, the right front will start to protest. It's really loose in the beginning and then sort of tightens up after that. So, just one of those things that, but still P3 is nothing to be sneezed at. We'll go on to Indy now. Indy's another good track for us, so we'll try to bounce back there and see if we can get the win there.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Good luck for Indy, and look, hopefully you get a slightly better run. Only 2 places to jump up there for yourself. But congratulations on that. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, all the JPSS boys. They're great guys to work with, and we're always just working together all race. And sort of going on from there, we've got obviously the ANZCAR guys, the other admins that run this series with us. Had our challenges lately, but coming out the other side of it stronger, and the league's just going from strength to strength at the moment. So it's great to see. The racing's really good, everything else. So that's all going fantastically well. And of course, I can't forget our sponsors. Can I? Track Racer, Goodyear Auto Care, Dragon RC. We've got Nationwide Tracking Systems, Drive Sim, Abruzzi. We've got so many good partners at this team. And, it's just awesome to be able to have them on the car and have those guys along for the ride. And, of course, their support's always very greatly appreciated for all of us. I mean, every team relies so heavily on their sponsors, and those guys have been great partners of ours. So thanks to them. And, I hope they enjoyed the race as much as the rest of us did. And we'll go on to Indy.
Thank you so much, Ed. We'll see you at Indianapolis, and have a good race there.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Edward Foster there for JP Simshed Racing. Great finish there. Looks like the winner has jumped up into the green room now. Jake Maloney's up there, so we'll be able to grab him down. We might not be able to grab Josh Micklemore, unfortunately, because I know he is streaming tonight, so he might not be able to jump with us. But we have the winner, Jake Maloney. Congratulations on that win there, Jake.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, that was fun race. The setup was a lot of fun this week. It was quite loose to drive, which I certainly prefer it that way. And it was good fun racing with Josh there at the end. Wasn't sure how it was going to turn out.
No, well, nor were we up at the booth. You were looking just back to that the loose setup there. Most of the race, we saw you just having the back end stepping out a little bit. It looks like the car was a little bit wiggly for you. Was that affecting you too much?
No, I think it was just sort of the way I was driving it, trying to get on the throttle as early as possible and sort of drive it off. But it was a lot of fun to drive it this week.
Well, it paid off for you for sure, managing to make 24 positions in that race as well. Fantastic job, and pretty much all of those were under green flag conditions. Absolute brilliant overtaking jobs done as well, which is what we always love to see. So fantastic run up there. Was qualifying a little bit of a letdown for you, or were you not too focused on the starting position?
No, I didn't. I didn't attempt a qualifying lap. I only sort of decided to race last minute, so I just sort of just jumped in. Yeah, no, I didn't turn my first lap until the race start. So it was, yeah, just like getting used to it for the first stint, and yeah, then just sort of picking off spots and moving forward from there.
Well, it was an absolute great drive for you, and that battle at the end between yourself and Micklemore was fantastic to watch. Hopefully, we'll see you for a couple more races this season. I know you haven't been able to make it to all the starts this season for the Cup. Will we be seeing any more times this year, or do you not know how many more times you're going to be coming out for these?
Yeah, I show up sort of most weeks depending on what's going on. So yeah, should be around.
Well, hopefully we will see you next time out at Indianapolis. That should be a good one. Another very fast track. Slightly different layout to Pocono, of course. But before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight? Anyone you'd like to thank? All that usual stuff.
No, not really. Just thank, yeah, the series for putting it on. And you guys for doing the broadcast.
You are more than welcome, especially if you give us good races like that. Thank you so much for joining us up in the booth, Jake.
Cheers, guys.
Our winner there, Jake Maloney. Absolute great drive for him. So yeah, that's our drivers tonight. Because as I said, I think we're going to miss Josh Micklemore just because he's on streams. So not going to be able to jump into us, unfortunately. So give him a bit of a shout out for his streams. Of course, you can follow him on Twitch. So you know, if you want to watch some on-car driver footage, it's quite good to do that occasionally. But of course, come here to watch all the broadcasts. So overall, that was a quite enjoyable race there, JP.
Certainly was. Really exciting stuff. Great to see them at Pocono. I've actually never seen a race at Pocono. I actually bought the track about half an hour before race start. So it was interesting to see the whole thing. Really enjoyed the racing. Good to see long green periods too.
Absolutely. Nice long green flag stints are absolutely vital, and we love to see them in oval racing because it's not every day that we do get that, of course. So before we go, we'll just quickly run through the broadcasts that are coming up, JP.
Absolutely. So Monday nights we have the Club Day Masters, so GT4 racing using the Porsche Cayman and the BMW M4. Really close, really exciting racing going on. On Tuesday nights we have the Nationwide Tracking Systems V8 Evolution Championship. That has been some incredibly close racing. We're into season 2 now. Round 3 was at Road America. Next round is going to be at Mossport Park, and there's only 28 points separating first and second in the championship. On Wednesdays, we usually do the re-stream of Split 2 of the NTS V8 Evolution Championship. And of course, we can't forget Thursday nights with the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup.
Yeah, so we'll see you all next time out at Indianapolis, the Motor Speedway, the home of the speedways, the almighty Indianapolis. Of course, not as famous for stock car racing as it is for open wheelers, but it is still a very impressive track to see these cars going out on.
Yeah, we'll certainly be looking forward to that.
Okay, well, so from myself, Carl Withy, and Mr. JP, thank you so much for joining me up in the booth again. We wish you all a good night, and we will see you all next time out for Indianapolis. Thank you so much for joining us. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.